vanakkam, namaskar, and welcome to yet another episode of my podcast series, The People I Meet. My name is Shruti Vijay Kumar Vasant. I'm a radio jockey from Chennai, and on today's episode, I am very, very, very excited to be introducing to you my guest, someone who has truly, I think, become viral during this pandemic, and I mean that with absolutely no ill intentions. By viral, I'm obviously not talking about COVID. I'm talking about the character sketch that he has created, and it truly has made all of us smile, even on those days when it felt like, there was nothing worth smiling about. So obviously, I don't think I need to give you any other clue as to who this particular character is. So with no further ado, I'm going to welcome onto my podcast Mrs. Janaki, also known as Abhishek Kumar. Hi Abhishek, how are you doing?
Hi Shruti, thank you so much for having me in the podcast. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. All right. So the reason why I introduced you as Mrs. Janaki, aka Abhishek, is because I think there's a sort of relativity now, right? I mean, whether it's a grandparent, whether it's a child who's 4 years old, or anybody, because there was even recently a child who imitated you and put up a comedy sketch very similar. So you've hit I think all the sweet spots across all the generations, and I think there's a lot of love for this particular character. We are going to come back and talk about Mrs. Janaki, but I want to go back to the beginning, Abhishek, because I know that you, just like myself, are an engineering graduate, as are most of the children from this particular generation.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that. Why engineering? How did that sort of happen? Did you just stumble upon it like the rest of us, or was it like a conscious choice?
I genuinely wanted to do engineering because I wanted to do sound engineering for a living. That is my ultimate aim.
Okay.
And for some reason, someone told me electronics and instrumentation engineering, if you learn, it's easy for you to handle analog systems, sound engineering and all that. I fell for that bullshit without any brain. I just randomly fell for it. I was very particular to take electronics and instrumentation. And one more reason why I did engineering was I gave the VIT entrance examinations, and while giving entrance examinations, I saw the college. It was beautiful. The college looked really beautiful, and I always wanted to experience the hostel life. Live by myself, no rules, no one monitoring me, no one surveillance cameras, just me with my friends. Okay. So 4 years were amazing in VIT, and I was a good engineering student. I didn't have arrears and all that. I cleared with a decent 8+ CGPA. But how did I stumble to arts? Because I was the vice president of college's dramatics club, which means theatre started from second year. Every single cultural fest will go. Because pocket money, if you win a prize, they'll give you cash prize. So if you have the cash prize, extra pocket money, extra trips. So that's how I calculated it. So now looking back, engineering was great.
Hey, that's a very refreshing take on things, man. Because to be very honest, I also fell for this, okay? That's how I ended up taking electronics and communication. Not that I had any inclination, but on the communication, on the oru vaarthela, like how Vivek says in that very popular film, no? It's like that. That's how I fell for the whole thing, and I became an electronics and communication engineer. I sort of enjoyed the process as well. My college life was, not like people say, but I thoroughly enjoyed those 4 years, and I think I learned a lot as well. So it's a very refreshing. You're the first person in my podcast, I'll say this today, who has said that they enjoyed the engineering process. So thank you so much. I think that's something that people also want to hear.
I loved it.
Because a lot of people sort of assume, that a lot of people, just take engineering for the heck of it. They don't have a choice. But it's nice to know that this is a very refreshing side to this. All right. So theatre, obviously, you said it's right from your second year, you were the vice president and all of that. So theatre obviously demands a very different personality, right? Because you're playing so many different characters, and theatre is not like cinema where you have this very subtle, or of course, each person's got a very different style when it comes to acting. So how did that sort of influence Abhishek the person? So let's talk a little bit about that.
I generally am a very attention-seeking person in the group. If there are 6 people, I'd like to have the last joke. I'd like to get the last laughter. So being that guy, it was very easy for me to go up on stage and play many characters. Because if I crave attention from 5 of my friends, imagine 50 random people looking at me and laughing at my jokes. So being an attention seeker, theatre was very natural for me. So I loved being on stage. But what was tough for me was, again, to understand a lot of other characters, to portray them well, to play someone older, to play someone completely younger. It put me in a lot of other shoes. It made me feel empathetic to a lot of characters. Which means I read a lot more scripts. I read a lot more stories, fiction, non-fiction. It gave me a lot of perspective about characters in general. Maybe I became a little more empathetic towards the people around me. So I would say theatre gave me that one particular skill, which I'm always grateful for.
Wow. Okay. So this is again, there are a lot of honest revelations in the first 2 minutes of our conversation, itself, which is a very good thing for me and my podcast, because this is exactly the sort of side or the character personality that I want to showcase of each of my guests. So when you talk about theatre, right, there are a lot of sort of ideologies out there, a lot of stereotypes that exist in society. People automatically assume you don't have a social life. People assume that, the money is less. People assume that it's not a very stable job, where some of these things are true, some of these things are not so true. So what is something that you feel is very misunderstood about the theatre scene, especially in Chennai?
Okay, so I don't think I can comment on the scene as such. I can comment on what I have gone through and wherever I have experienced my part of theatre. One thing is, we're all very normal, just like every other field of work. We also like to party. We also like to go socialize with people. I don't think that changes. I think that's a very individual perspective. We're also very normal. We had the very similar social life.
Okay.
Does it pay well? Well, yeah. That there. I don't think it pays as well as where you can take it up as a full-time job. Okay. But luckily I was part of Kriya Shakti, where they used to teach theatre to kids in schools.
Right.
So that was my full-time job. I was not just acting plays, I was teaching theatre. That's where I got the revenue from. So they did a very smart thing about getting revenue from teaching theatre. So I think that was a very smart move. And it was a great deal for someone who was doing theatre throughout college. I step out of college and I get a job where I teach theatre for the first half of the day. I go back to rehearsals in the second half. I do plays in the weekends. This was a blockbuster deal for me. And it was kind of a campus placement for me. Every IIT festival called Sarang, every Jan used to happen.
Yeah.
The last two Sarangs, that was my third year and fourth year of Sarang, I won the best actor in the play category. Continuously, 2 years in a row. And every time Sarang is judged by Kriya Shakti. So when they spotted me, this guy is winning everywhere we go. They're like, do you want to do this full time?
Right.
I was like, cool, I'll do it. I got a campus placement in Deloitte and I gave it up for this full-time job, for the theatre job. And I'm not regretting a bit. I learned a lot in the last 3-4 years.
Wow, that's like a complete role reversal, man. Usually people go into a corporate job, they sort of, do it for a while, then they realize, no, this is not what I want to do, and then they switch careers. Because that's pretty much like, a very standard template for most of these people who've done engineering, who've gone the typical 9-to-5 route and then decided, no, I have to follow my passion, I have to follow my dreams and do that. But it's very nice that, it's very refreshing to see that you had this campus placement and you landed a job of your dream. So when it comes to sort of teaching theatre, I know that we're talking a lot about theatre instead of stand-up comedy. I am getting there, but I just sort of want to understand, because this is something that's very new to me as well, because I've never had a guest say that, they've enjoyed engineering, that they've, landed a dream job right after they finish college. So when you teach theatre, like a lot of people, right, they believe that teaching or, especially teaching something like the arts is a very challenging role, because not everybody is cut out for it. Not everything in the world can be taught, right? Of course, you can practice. Of course, there are certain methodologies. There are certain things that you can sort of try and implement. So how did your role as a teacher sort of transform you as a person?
Oh, I was dealing with kids. And you know how tough it is to deal with kids. It is extremely tough. So I learned the art of patience. It was very, very tough. And I was never a teacher. I had to stoop down to their level, become their friend first, gain their trust, then slowly start teaching. So this whole process of becoming a friend, gaining their trust, then teaching was a beautiful learning curve. And I did not teach in just one school. Okay. If Mondays was one school, Tuesdays was another school, Wednesday was another school. Each school used to have theatre on a particular day. It was like the PT period for them. Right. Which means every day I had to prepare mentally for this particular school, that particular school, this particular age group, another older age group.
Right.
So these were the challenges which were really tough, because For someone in the 8th or 9th, they want someone cool. They want someone in their YOLO millennial age group.
Right.
For someone 2nd or 3rd or 4th, they want a clown who's doing crazy, bad shit, crazy stuff.
Right.
So this variation helped me perform in the weekends. I could do any character. Throw me a character, I'll do it because I've dealt with so many kids. So it helped me perform really well. And you get the most honest feedback from kids. They don't hold back. If they don't like something, they'll call it out on your face.
Right.
If they love something, they'll pour their love. So this honest feedback helped me a lot. So I'm now ready for I'm immune to any feedback right now. Someone's calling me out my bullshit. Yeah, thank you. I'll work on it types. Because I've dealt with hundreds and thousands of kids telling me, you suck. You're great, sir. You're so funny. All that I've heard. So I'm good now.
Wow, it is very true, right? Kids are like the most honest. Like if you want like a critique, like if you want someone to criticize your work and be very honest about it and be very blunt about it, love it or hate it, present it in front of a child and the child will tell you like whether you're 0 or whether you're 100. And I think that's a very honest, take back from this particular part of the conversation. And moving on, right? From theater, I know that your first gig as a stand-up comedian happened by accident. You had no preparation. You just went on stage and you just made people laugh. And then you sort of realized that this is something that you wanted to do. But again, stand-up comedy, like Kamal Hassan sir says, comedy is very serious business, right? Not a lot of people just automatically... Some people are really funny, but I think they're funny like in a particular style. Not everybody enjoys the same kind of comedy, right? And in comedy itself, there are so many different genres. So how did you sort of, pick on what works for you and how did you develop that, Abhishek?
It is very simple for me. I used a lot of my theater for comedy. I used a lot of my body. I used a lot of my movements in comedy. If I give you my comedic script or stand-up script and ask you to read it, you might chuckle here and there, but you might never laugh. But if you watch me perform on stage, it might convert to a laughter. So I think I'm honestly weak on paper, strong on stage. I used my theater background and whatever I've learned for the last 3 years in my stand-up. So this application was very easy for me. According to me, very honestly, stand-up, theater, everything is just a performance on stage. Audience, if he's paying $300 and entering a hall, entering an event hall, all he wants to do is paisa vasool. I paid 300, you better make me laugh, I'll go back. He's not going to tell you, I like this genre. You could have done that style of a joke. No, he just wants to laugh. This is a very simple mathematic, right? So all you have to do is be a clown, just like the kid asked you to be. Be a clown, do something, make sure his 300 was worth it. That's all I care about. A lot of them tell your joke writing can improve. This rule, that rule can improve. I'll go, kindly let's go to the audience and ask him if I was better, you're better, or both of us were equal. Audience is going to tell both of you were equal. I didn't see any difference. So as a common man, all he wants to do is forget his work pressure, personal tension when he's in the 1 hour of the show. And it's my responsibility to make him laugh. And I think I'm doing it decently well in the few years.
Right, so that's very interesting, Abhishek, and it's so refreshing to hear that you were able to apply the basics of theatre to the current career that you have. So going back, Abhishek, when he started off to Abhishek now, there's been a huge growth, right? And as much as today, this one particular character has sort of taken you to every household, I also know that Comic Sun happened last year itself. Right? Like you've rightly been speaking about it on your social media platforms, you sort of had this knack to capture the audience attention. Do you have, like you said, you already mentioned there is a simple mathematics. They have to come, they have to laugh. It's just about maybe, weak on paper but strong on stage. But do you sort of have a routine or a procedure before you create a set? How do you sort of work on yourself, work on your comedy every time before you perform?
So there is a proper way we approach it. Whenever we have a new joke or a new set, first take it to open mics, repeatedly test it there. So first 2 open mics will be rusty, 5th, 6th open mic will be almost there. Probably the 10th to 15th open mic, I'm talking about the same set. The set becomes better. So what we comedians do is first 2 times we don't give up on a set so quickly. We make sure we write it, we fine tune it till it becomes a proper set. After the 15th open mic, when a set is like 100% set, we take it to a show, a ticketed show. So open mic is where a lot of comedians you see test their jokes. A lot of comedians first open mics, if people come and watch the comedian, they like the comedian. They be enna kandravi pandran, YouTube video la avlo funny-a irukane. The honest truth is that kandravi da adu. It's getting better where it becomes YouTube worthy soon. So even in open mics, I have a different strategy. Usually what comedians do is they write a set, take it to an open mic, then write it again, take it to open mic, and mari பண்ணுவாங்க. But when I find something that directly hit the open mic, I don't write it. I perform it first. I video record it or audio record it. Whatever is worked in the open mic becomes my next open mic material. Whatever is not worked, I remove it. So I like to perform my sets, perform. Panna appuram edana work achu, then I put it on paper. I work the reverse way.
Wow, so that's a process of elimination, right? Like in very layman terms. It's a very simple process of elimination, seeing what works and then deciding. Right, okay. So I didn't know that this is what happens in an open mic. So the next time I go or the next time I watch an open mic, I will be a little less harsh on every comedian who's, sort of working really hard to make people laugh.
That is exact. That is also why most open mics, they don't charge money for the audience. They just happen in a random cafe, a small hall where people are free. At the same time, randomly a guy walks in and he's testing a set, where he's not demanding you to laugh or you're not obligated to laugh. But even there, when they're just having a conversation and they're listening to you and they laugh, you've done really good. That joke is really working, which gives you the confidence to take it to a show.
Wow, I really honestly did not know that so much goes into creating, I obviously, like I said earlier, comedy is serious business and a lot of people put in a lot of effort because it's not easy to make people laugh, right? Because everybody's got a certain experience, everybody's got a certain idea, everybody finds different things different funny. Right? So like we were talking about how each person has got like an idea of what comedy is, and it's so subjective. Okay, awesome. So getting back to talking about creating this character, because again, like a lot of things in your life, this also happened by accident. Like how you automatically slipped from theater to stand-up comedy, to then creating this viral character. How did that sort of fame affect you? Because I know it's not easy, right? There's a lot of pressure that also comes with sort of creating this, because people have already put you up on this pedestal. Right? And now every time they want a sixer. It's like being Sachin Tendulkar, right? When we know he's there, we always want him to win the match. So how is that pressure sort of, feeling on you right now?
So right now, I think it's not just about hitting sixers, not just being very successful or very funny. I have to be very safe in my content also. Like, because a lot of kids are watching, a lot of really old people are watching, and the mid-age, my age group people are watching. So my age people want something raw. Honest swear words, we don't care. But the old people and young people are also watching. So I cannot even slip a swear word between. So I am not someone who does not swear in real life. I am natural. I'm also human. I do swear with my friends around. But now I'm responsible to not swear with the content that goes out. I'm very careful on that.
Right.
This Janaki has helped me write clean content in my stand-up as well. Even before Janaki, I shifted to clean comedy because I started performing a lot of corporate shows now. Corporate shows, a mandatory rule is not even to be funny. Be safe funny. Don't swear.
Right.
Please us, that's all. So and as a comedian, the most money you make is via corporate shows. They pay you well. So I started writing a lot of clean stuff, which reflected in Janaki, I feel. Even I did a small sketch video before that, every Zoom call ever. There also I've not sweared much. So I think clean comedy is the only change that has come to my comedy career in the last 1 year, and it's worked really well for me.
Okay. Right.
Even you mentioned earlier that a kid has recreated my video. It is not a kid. 164 kids. I have a number, I have a count. 164 videos I have in my Facebook Messenger. And without knowing, by mistake, the first ever kid who recreated, I did a review on him. I did a very cute comparison of mine and his. That created a wave of 160 other kids who were forced by parents, or it came naturally, I don't know, who recreated it, who sent it to me. He's like, then I realized I should not do this whole kid comparison thing. Let me just leave it here and appreciate every single message that comes. So that would not have happened if it was not a clean comedy. Kids would not have recreated. So I think that I'm really lucky and fortunate.
That's very nice to hear, Abhishek, because with a lot of power comes a lot of responsibility, right? I'm just randomly quoting characters, but still, it is very true, especially when we are in a age where social media is where you make it or break it, right? To be very honest, whether we like it, whether we don't like it, whatever sort of profession that we come from today, especially when it is sort of dealing with media and entertainment, there's a lot more scrutiny on us. There's a lot more, so many more eyes prying to see where we go wrong. Even if we do something right, they may not be very appreciative of it. But the moment we slip up, they want to say, hey, this person said this. How can they say this? So there is that sort of responsibility as well, right? Okay, so moving on and talking about you as a person through the past couple of years, right? I'm sure that it wouldn't have been an easy choice sort of making your parents understand that this is what you want to do. And I'm just saying it from experience. I'm just saying it from a general observation. So I want to know that story. I want to know what your parents feel about where you are today, because today I feel that a lot of children have a lot more opportunity to experiment with their career choices as opposed to when I was studying. To be very honest, I had only 2 choices in front of me, and everybody still today wants a very secure job where you get a salary at the end of the month. But with arts, with stand-up comedy, with entertainment, that is not really the scene, right? So could you take us a little bit through the journey so that if somebody who's listening right now, they are looking for that little bit of motivation or they are looking for that little bit of spark, it will help them. So please.
I don't think when you were the amount of choices, and back recently to right now, the kids having so many choices is the problem. I think the financial background is the main problem. Okay. I think that plays a huge role in everyone's choices. Right. If I was coming from a little well-to-do or a privileged family, to call it honestly, my parents wouldn't have bothered or wouldn't have been so concerned, because my parents for a fact know that I'm little talented. Because every week I used to come home with some certificate or the other in college. So they for a fact knew that this guy has something.
Right.
But even for this guy who's winning every week some certificate to take a full-time art job, my parents were concerned, because we still aren't doing that great. We make ends meet types. So when you're in that kind of a family, you're obligated to make sure that you have a monthly salary or a monthly obligation where you're obligated to pay your parents some money. Right. So this was a primary concern, I feel, number 1. Number 2 was, what is full-time theatre job? You did engineering for 4 years. You're teaching kids now. This is a huge, you asked me what is the random jump. Then imagine how random it was for them. So this was concerning and bothering them until they came for a first ever public show of mine. Okay. That went really well. Then they're like, okay, you have something. Okay, this guy has something. They saw people clapping. They saw people walking to me after the show and telling, Sammaya in the scene, Sammaya pandringa. So as a parent, when you're watching so many people giving so many validation, it makes you feel great. So then they kept quiet. They were not completely happy with it. They kept quiet. And over the years, I started, my income started getting better. Corporate shows. I got my own hike in Kriya Shakti to Comicstan and then Janaki. Right now, I don't share my videos on WhatsApp and all. My father does. And Janaki first video YouTube, my mother shares it to all the family groups. So I think
so sweet.
Once you've given them some sort of comfort zone in your own style, because you were being selfish. I was being selfish. I could have actually taken the Deloitte job, made them feel cushioned and comfort, but I was selfish. I did not give them the benefit. I was selfish there. So right now I should be less selfish and giving them all the attention they need through my art. So I think I'm ரொம்ப ஈஸியா சொல்லிடலாம். My moves were all calculated. It went well. No, nothing was calculated. Very honestly, everything happened by accident. And I'm grateful and fortunate that luck favored me. Nothing else.
Again, I think this is a very different side of you, Abhishek. To be very honest, I did not expect my conversation with you to go the way it did today. But it's been very, very nice to see you be so candid and admit some of the things that you've told me today, because a lot of people, right, especially when they come to a particular level, right, and I'm saying this with all honesty because there is a huge growth now, right, from the time you started off like a couple of years ago to today. There is a lot of responsibility, there is a lot of changeover, and there is a lot of expectation from you as a person. So to be able to candidly say that this is what I did, I think takes a lot of courage. And thank you for your honesty. That's very refreshing in today's day and age, because today everybody wants to be politically correct. Today everybody wants to be right about what they're saying, which I think is fair enough, to each their own. I'm not saying no. But I also like the fact that you said it was luck, because I also believe in that. You know, I believe as much as we work 24/7, putting in all the hard work, somewhere being at the right place at the right time sort of makes that, you know, that difference in all of our lives. And I'm also an example of that. So which is why I, you know, say these things so candidly to my guests as well. So another question that I want to ask you, Abhishek, is, you know, with this sort of growth that you've had, right, I'm sure it's not always bouquets. I'm sure there are a lot of brickbats. I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, criticism. There's a lot of, you know, the negative, the flip side to it that we see as well. And most artists, most people who are on the creative side that I know, creativity is not like a tap. You can't just be like, okay, today I'm pressing this button. Today I want this output to come. So what do you sort of do to deal with that sort of, you know, a day where everything is not going right?
To be very honest, I take a break during the day. What I do is I make sure I observe a lot. The more I observe, the more I find something that is interesting that I can put on paper and work. This is what I do. And the lockdown has been very, very kind to me in terms of providing content. Every day there is something coming up. Every day there is something happening, especially in India, especially in Tamil Nadu. So I think lockdown has been very, very kind and giving in this tough time as a creative thinker. And I think it's been very, very, how do I say, during creative blocks, what I do is I just give it some time. Because during creative blocks, the more you try it harder, the more you pollute and the more you stagnate the block. I think to just let it be. It's like this pain when a kid falls down. The more you give attention to the kid, okay, she'll start crying. Just let the kid be, let the kid walk away. Just like that, let the creative block walk away. It will become very, very normal, and then you can get back to your usual writing. That's what I treat it like. So, even though I will start crying. So, just let it be. Be very ignorant about it, and I think it will dissolve on its own.
Right, I think like now in your everyday life also there's a lot of influence of Mrs. Janaki, because you're like constantly thinking like that, right?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. It's been a very interesting conversation with you, Abhishek, today, because I think we've spoken a little bit about your theatre, we've spoken about how stand-up comedy happened to you, and you know, this wonderful character that you've created that all of us love so much. I think I also messaged you when the last time when we did a radio interview as well, and I was telling you about how, you know, you've made me smile on those days when even nothing was going right, because this has been a very strenuous time for all of us. So kudos to you for that. Kudos to you for creating something like this, and your growth has been fabulous. So I wish you a lot more success, you know, in the coming years, and definitely put India on the global map of comedy. And that time we'll all be like, hey, we interviewed this boy, he's our Chennai Paye, he's from our Besanagar area. So we'll definitely take a lot of pride in that. But one last question before I let you go, Abhishek, is what would you sort of like to say to everybody who's listening to this podcast right now? Because everybody sort of wants, we all as humans want validation. At the end of the day, we want validation, whether it's from strangers, whether it's from the people we love, whether it's from anybody, right? Which is why I think a lot of us spend time on social media. But that is a different topic for another day. But what would you just sort of like to, you know, share as we wrap up this conversation?
So I started doing theatre and comedy since 2016 mid, and it's now 2020 mid. 4 years of absolutely not much validation at all, but I never gave up. I kept doing. Maybe if it was validation from 3 or 4 of my friends, I was still happy with it, and I kept at it. Like you said, luck plays a big role in today's social media world, because the internet is a very weird place. You don't know what works, what doesn't. But when you keep at it, when you keep doing and putting out content, any content, whatever content you put out, you can be a food blogger, a fashion blogger, whatever, keep putting content. There might be a random video or random content which turns eyeballs, and you're one night away from becoming famous. Not because you're an overnight sensation, because you worked so many other days for that day. So I think even if someone calls you a random viral sensation, an overnight viral sensation, one Priya Warrior Wink sensation, but still you should tell yourself that you worked so many other days for this one day of hike or bonus. It's like a corporate job. மாடு மாதிரி 3 வருஷம் உழைச்ச அப்புறம் தான் ஒரு ஹைக்கோ ஒரு போனஸோ கிடைக்கும். அந்த மாதிரி நினைச்சிட்டு போயிட்டே இருக்கணும். So give yourself everyday validation before someone else does. I think that plays a huge role in pushing yourself and keeping at it.
Beautiful. I think that's a very nice and a very positive way to sort of wrap up my conversation today. And I know it's been very difficult to track you down and sort of have this conversation with you. But thank you so much. I know that you've been really busy, but it's very nice to see you're also going to be making your film debut very, very soon. So congratulations. I know that very soon you'll be putting out the details of that as well. So wishing you all luck in every single step that you're going to be taking here on, and please don't forget me at any point after this, if I please request you for an interview.
Shruti, I have to for the ones who are listening, I have to tell you, Shruti is the only, probably the first and last wedding I will ever perform in. So I should thank Shruti. I usually never take up wedding gigs because it's very tough to get people's attention, right? Because they're all having so much fun, and to cut all the fun and listen to one guy who's not even part of your family feels very weird. But I think the audience that day were very sweet. Everyone were really positive and in a great vibe. So I should thank you for the opportunity. And I know I will not forget you. Obviously, I will not forget you. Thank you so much for having me in the podcast. And என்னையும் மதிச்சு இவன் பேசுறதையும் கேட்கலாம்னு சொல்லி கேட்கிட்ட எல்லாருக்குமே ரொம்ப ரொம்ப நன்றி.
No, I think you have a beautiful story to share, and I think you are a very, very, very talented human being, which I think I told you on the night of my Sangeet as well. Yeah. And I feel so honored that I had Abhishek, the one and only wedding that he's ever performed for. The honor was absolutely mine, and thank you so much. So I just have one request for you. As we end this podcast, obviously, I want your a signature Mrs. Janaki way of ending my podcast so that my listeners will also be really happy.
Hello, Mrs. Janaki here. The podcast Geekcast நல்லா பண்ணிக்கிட்டு இருக்கா. 15 episodes டக்குன்னு முடிச்சிட்டாலாம். 16th 17th என்ன மதிச்சு கூப்பிட்டுருக்கா. So ரொம்ப ரொம்ப thank you. All of you கிங்கினி மங்கினி கேட்காம ஜாலியா கூத்தடிங்க. Enjoy.
Okay, so on that note, ladies and gentlemen, a fantastic interview with the very, very talented stand-up comedian Abhishek Kumar, also known as Mrs. Janaki, comes to an end. So with a very refreshing conversation and with a lot of laughter, I end my episode here today. But I will be back with yet another episode with yet another interesting personality, with yet another beautiful story to share. So until then, this is me, Shruti Vijay Kumar Vasant, the radio jockey from Chennai, signing off. And this podcast series is called The People I Meet. Thank you for tuning in. Take care.